Today, we are joined by former Europa Point FC captain Martin Falkeborn. Now, before we introduce him, I did just tell him that I was really eager to get him onto the podcast. I've been trying to get in contact with him for absolutely ages, and finally it's happened. So, Martin, welcome to the show.
Thank you very much. I'm very
No
happy to be
worries.
here.
Absolutely. Well, that's good to hear. And obviously, we're going to be talking about your career from Bromma, which I hopefully haven't said the name too badly, Europa Point, so many more. But we always start off with what it was like growing up. So you grew up in Sweden. Talk to us about your life playing football.
Yeah, so like you say, I'm from Sweden. I'm from Stockholm. So I grew up in a small place called Ekerö. It's an island outside, just 30 minutes from the city center in Stockholm. Grew up there with my family, mother, father, two older sister, and my little dog also, a Lassie, if you remember the movie Lassie.
Okay.
So I grew up there and play. Oh, I played there in the small island in a football team there in Ekerö until I was 12 years old. And then I moved to the Bromma Academy and started to play.
And obviously, Bromma is quite a well-known academy in Sweden, right? So for you to be, I suppose, scouted by Bromma and then eventually go ahead and play for them, what was that like as this young player coming through?
Yeah, of course, like for every young player in Sweden, Bromma is a very famous club for the academy and how they working with young talents. And for me, it was a really special moment, of course, to get headhunted and to play with the best team in Sweden for the youth. And like, if you know about Bromma maybe they have in the youth, they have like 40 to 50 teams, like Bromma 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, blah, blah, blah. And for me, I come to the first team, like Bromma number one. So, of course, it was a really big step and a very interesting step also for my. I was only 12 years old, so I didn't know about, like, of course, I wanted to be a football player when I'm 18, but yeah, I was very young. So, but for me, it was a big moment, of course.
Did you always want to be a right back? Because obviously now you're a right back. So did you always want to be a right back, or did you play up front earlier in your time?
So now, when I was younger, I was always playing the midfield, like central
Okay.
midfielder, also in this team here in Bromma. But it was more when I was maybe around 17, 18, 16, 17, 18, I was more in the defending line to the right. I was not, how to say, the most technical player. So maybe they wanted me just, he's technical, so put it on the side, maybe. Yeah.
Because I know a lot of players often, as you just mentioned there, go from striker, and a lot of the defensive players certainly start up front or in midfield. But for yourself, I suppose you found a joy in the right back position, right?
Yeah, yeah. For me, like I'm very physical player. Like I say, I've never been the most technical player. I just have the head and like very good mentality, and I can run very much and a good lungs. So I always say the right wing back or left wing back is my dream position, in like in a 3-5-2 or what else, like offensively part of the field as a wing back.
So when you were growing up, then obviously you wanted to become a professional footballer, don't we all? So you were growing up then, and how did you sort of balance that between school and obviously social and then football as well?
Yeah, for like a Brommapojkarna, I have like connections, or how to say, like with the different school in the Stockholm area. So the teachers there are very like, if you miss a lesson for a training, it's no problem if you just do your homework. They're very good with that, like with the cooperations with the club. But for me, when I was 12, 13, 14 years old, I was traveled like 1.5 hour one way to just get to the football school from the small island in Ekerö. So like for me also, like the academy in Brommapojkarna, this was my best learning from when I was youth. Like you can never coming late to the trainings. You need to eat good. The coaches was very like the discipline is number one. If you're not doing the school right, you cannot train with the team. So it was very good.
And then, but before you joined Bromma, you're at Eriko FC, IK, which is obviously the island that you were on, right?
Yeah. Uh, I didn't heard what you say.
Before you joined Bromma, you were at the island that you were on.
Yeah.
Is it Eriko? You played for them
Okay.
first before, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, and obviously that was an introduction into your life into football. So what did that teach you? Because obviously you need to know the basics before you can go on to Bromma and other academies.
Of course, yeah, like to grow up with your friends, with your parents close to you, and the school close to you. It was like how to say, I feel very safe there, like a good environment to be close to everyone. And yeah, we practice 2 to 3 times per day, per week, and with the best basic technical stuff and blah blah blah. But was more when I come to Bromma, I was more like professional. You know, you train 4 to 5 times per week when you're 10 years old, and with the techniques, with everything around it. So yeah, I would say more in Ekra was the more the environment. You know, to be with your friends and blah blah blah.
And in 2010, you signed your professional contract with Bromma and you were there for 5 years. But to sign a professional contract, what was that like as one of those players?
Of course, this my first professional contract, like you say, was when I was 17 or 18 years old, and the first year I was loaned out to a Division One club, Acropolis, and it was a huge step for me. Like 17 years old, earning money, have a professional contract, and yeah, I was very happy with that, you know. But for me, I always have the in Sweden, you say like you should always give 100% in every situation. And for me, like I have a little bit money, but was not much. But you cannot think you are a football player because you have a contract. So you need to continue to work very hard and come into the trainings and do extra and blah 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 and eat good and stuff around it.
And then I believe the following season, so you got loaned out then in that first season. Talk to us about that. You played 8 games, 18, 19 years of age. That's a big deal for a youth player, right? To play in the first league as well.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. It was a good step for me, you know, to come to a senior team with sitting with 35 years old. Now I'm 32, but when I was there, I was 17. It was like this could be my father, you know, and they take care of me. And it was Acropolis is like a Greek club, like
Yeah.
they are very family, you know. And every time we win a game, they have, you know, souvlaki, they have barbecue after the game. So for me, it was like, oh, professional life. So it was
You
very
had,
fun.
you had barbecues after a game. That's really cool.
If you win only.
Oh, only if you win. Okay,
Yeah,
that's a good way to win, though, isn't it?
yeah, exactly.
And then after you came back from loan, then obviously we see with Liverpool, we see with the clubs in the Premier League sort of what happens. But could you give us an insight as to what happens for someone who goes out on loan to then return to the club? What do they talk to you about in the time that you return?
They, of course, they always they talk about have you have a good experience and how was it to play there with the physical and blah blah blah. And then of course they can see that you have improvements like a people. You know, when you come up like as a junior to a, for me it was in Allsvenskan was a big step for me. And now I was like in Division One, like a middle step. So for me it was only good to get used to the physical and the environment for the adults when you are a junior.
But coming through in these times, then the team around you, whether they be 25, 30, whatever, what were they saying to you? Because I know that so for example, one of the players that was from Finland originally went to, I think it was Latvia or Lithuania, and he said that the players there were quite hostile to him. But I would have thought that in Sweden it might be a bit different.
Yeah, so before it was more, you know, when you're a junior and you come up to the senior, you need to always, when you play a rondo, you start in the middle, or you need to clean the shoes of the captain. And but now, when I was come up, it was not like that. Of course, they was in the middle, you know. Now it's like you need to take care of all the junior player when they come up. But before it was 20, 30 years ago, you shut up and don't say a word and just go up there and play. But for me, I was there with two other players from Bromma, and it was no problem for me. Like, but of course, you need to have respect for the older people and the older players and have the experience and for the coach. You're not going up there and talk and don't do the work. You need to be very humble and always be 100%.
And then you decided to leave Bromma. How did that come about? Because obviously then you moved to Norway. So you were there for one season only in Norway, but to move countries is a big deal for a player, right?
Yeah, for me, I've played in Bromma since I was 12 years old, and I didn't have the much playing time from I was 19 to 21. We was 2 years in Allsvenskan, and I think I got like 26 games, but it was like 10 from start only. And for me, I was talking with my family and agents, and they say, for me, the most important is to play. So the playing time doesn't matter if it's five division or first division. I need to play and get experienced. And then I had one more year contract in Brommapojkarna, but coach there, he said, "Nah, we don't think you're gonna fit in," and blah blah blah. So I say, "Yeah, if it's okay, I have a Norwegian club here," and I was there, and it was a small club in the middle of nowhere, I think. And for me, like I'm from Brommapojkarna and Stockholm, like 2 million people live here, 1 million people, and there was 10,000. So for me, I think it was a good step, to only focus on the football, to come there and just train, and develop myself. And I get very positive pictures of the coaches there, because there was two Swedish coaches, Magnus Powell, a former player in Helsingborg, and Lillestrøm in Norway, a top player, and now he have been a youth coach, and Mattias Nylund also have 100 games in Allsvenskan with Sundsvall. So they call me like every day and say, "Yeah, you will fit in here. We will develop you. We will train all the time." And so for me, I feel like it was a big step for me to leave my childhood area with my mother and father cooking food every day, to come and become a top real professional player, to live on my own.
Obviously, when you're going through these times, obviously a lot of players that play for these sorts of clubs never quite know what could happen at the end of the season. So when you get offered a contract, I'm going to say something a bit crazy here. Does it come through LinkedIn? Does it come through an email? How do you get these offers?
For me, in that time, that was my agent.
Okay.
So I had an agent in that time. But of course, like you say, you see LinkedIn now. I see all the time people searching for clubs and blah blah blah. But if you are professional and works professionally, it's more you take a contact maybe with a club, or the best way is like you have someone who help you with this.
And then you signed for that club. What is actually the name of it? Ergsken.
Egersund.
Egersund. Okay. And to move to Norway, what was that like? Is Norway and Sweden quite similar?
Yeah, it's quite similar. Like the people speak pretty much the same language, but it was a small village, like 10,000 in the middle of close to the sea, and for me it was a big change, from Stockholm to the small place Egersund.
And obviously, in that season, you played 25, scored one, providing 6 assists. Would you say that that was a positive season?
Yeah, for me personally, it was the best season. It was the third division, as in Division One in Norway, but it was a very good season for me. Norwegian football is a little bit different. It's more on that moment. It was more like direct football, and there was grass everywhere, and there was more direct, and you more physical, and that was fitting me a little bit more. But it was a big change, because in Brommapojkarna, you like a wing back or right left back, you never do a cross. You always play short all the time. But here in Norway, I come there and they say kick the ball and run up and cross the ball. And for me, I never do that. So every morning, not every morning, but 2 to 3 times in the week, I go with Magnus, the coach, to develop my longer passes and the crosses. 3 times in the week, in 6 o'clock to 7 o'clock before the work starts for the coaches, I went with them and practice.
For me, what I've just thought about was so if you have a team and you have a new manager, a lot of the time the midfielders, the defenders, and the strikers, the striker scores the goals, defenders stop the goals, the midfielders just play the football. But for the right back and the left back, it's quite a different position where some managers might want you to be more attacking, more defensive.
Yeah.
Firstly, are you more attacking and more defensive? And secondly, does it change quite a lot between managers that this one would want you to do this thing, and then it can change completely differently with the next manager?
Yeah, 100%. For me personally, when I was from 18 to 29, when I was younger, I was more offensively. I like to be like an offensive part of the field, to cross the ball and do assist and blah blah blah. And of course, some coaches, when we play with a four-back line, some of the coaches want to take up the left back and stay with the right back, or vice versa. Like it's different. For example, in the end of my career here in Acropolis, and then the manager there say you're a left back, but you're more like a left winger. So he put me very offensively. So it's different in every setup with the coaches.
After Norway, you returned to Sweden for a few years. You went to 3 separate clubs. Do you want to start off in 2019 with Syrianska? Is that how you say it?
Yeah, Syrianska. Yeah.
Syrianska. So I have pronounced something well for once. Okay. And you played 23 games and you got 1 assist. What was that season like?
Personally, it was there was a okay season from my side. Of course, I wanted to do some more points, but we have struggled the all year. We have, I think, there was 4 or 5 different coaches, and it was a tough season for the team and for the city. It's just outside Stockholm, and I think we was in the bottom all the time, and we get relegated. But for me, I had in the beginning I didn't play because I was a little bit sick, and but then I have 23 games in a row, and for me personally, it was a okay season, not the best, but not the worst. So it was okay season from my side.
And I suppose being one of the players in the team that is a leader, how would you sort of guide your team from when you're in a relegation scrap? It's never going to be a positive change in room. But as a leader, how would you sort of change that?
It's a tough, when you are in the bottom, it's always a tough environment, in the club. Like many people are moaning, many people are, and we didn't have we have 4 or 5 different coaches, and there was always new coach who come in with his idea, and then 5 games later was another coach, and then there's a Serbian, and then a Greek. It was different and difficult all the season, and it's not easy to handle that, as a player.
And then you moved to Acropolis. Okay, that's really, really bad pronunciation.
Acropolis.
And you played 19 games and provided 3 assists. So your time there, you're going back there. What was that like?
Yeah, in Acropolis, they were new in the league in the Superettan, and I always had since I was in Acropolis for 10 years ago, I always have a good cooperation with the sporting director. He was still there, but the coach he didn't want me there. He was from Greece. He said no, we don't want him. But the sporting director always said yes, we need him. We need him. He's a good player. But then I didn't heard anything, so I was without club January, February, and then in the middle of the March, he signed me because they didn't have any other options. So I remember the coach, Nikopopoulos or Christopopoulos, he's a former player, pro player in Greece. He was sitting in his room, and then I come in and say, "Hello, my name is Martin," and he didn't look at me. He was like, "Okay, go," for example, like that, like a little bit, because it was the sporting director who take me in, not the coach. So the first 2 months, I only run. I run in the training field, around the training field. I didn't train with the team because he said you're not fit. So I was running 2 months without the ball, only running. And then, the corona come. So I didn't play football for like for 4 or 5 months. Always running around the field. But then there was some injury in the left back, I think, and then he said, "Okay, Martin, you get the chance now." And then I really took the chance. I was, I have run for 4 or 5 months. I was a physical monster, so I run all the game, and I think I do 1 or 2 assists. I think 1 assist, and then I have the spot for the rest of the season. And then in the end, he really loved me, the coach. So I say that to all the football players, like. You never know. The first, so football is like this. You never know. The first you're at the moment you're a top player.
Absolutely. I mean, from the coach then, when you obviously went in there, as you said, possibly he didn't really like you as a player. How did that conversation kind of glide across those months where all of a sudden then he went from hating you to going, "Oh my God, you're a really good player"?
It's very weird because it's very weird situation. But I always say if you play good, the coach will always love you. It's the football.
And then in terms of you going into COVID, what was that like in Sweden? Because I believe Sweden was a bit more lenient on restrictions and things like that.
Yeah, but they didn't have any. We couldn't have any fans, in the stadiums. And the first 1 or 2 months, there was no football at all, games. But then, of course, they opened slowly. And I think, like you say, in Sweden was like the most open country in the world if you compare to others about COVID. So it was not difficult, but it was difficult. But it was not very difficult like other countries, I think.
And I suppose this is the same with all footballers because within the space of, is that 3 years? 3 years, you joined Bromma after. Before we talk about that, here I always like to sort of make a statement to these young players that want to become a professional footballer, that obviously the majority of players that are professional are not playing in the Premier League, La Liga, Bundesliga, wherever it may be. But for you as a professional player, you have insecurities that you might not be playing football the following season, as it's proven here, 3 clubs within 3 years.
Mm. Yeah, like you say, it's for the young players. You need to always keep the hard work up, and you never know in football. You need to always be ready. If you're one week you're on the side on the stands, and then in the next week you can play from the starting 11. It can always happen injuries or sickness or whatever. So you need to always be ready, even if it's you very on the dark side. You think you will never play, but then, choof, like a chance, like a coin. You flip it, and then you're gonna start tomorrow. So you need always be ready and prepared.
So with Broma Polkana, you returned to the club, played 19, and you got a goal as well. So obviously a right back
Oh.
getting a goal. Wow.
Yeah, it was actually in the last minute against a good club, Gävle.
Mhm.
Yeah, it's a history club here in Sweden. So the last minute I scored, I remember.
And what was
And
that like?
was a good feeling. We have 0-0, and if we win that game, we do a bigger step to the Superettan. So I remember I jump in and then I score in the 96th minute, and I took off my shirt and ran to the stands. It was two fans from Brommapojkarna and I traveled all the way.
Oh wow! Well, a lot of the time you have those hardcore fans, I guess. Now,
Yeah,
for me on the channel, I've got a soft spot for Gibraltar. Now, a lot
yeah,
of people aren't quite sure as to why, and to be fair, I'm not quite sure as to why. But I think it's a really cool league. I think what is it? Is it 12 teams and they all play in the same stadium?
yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
And
it's
11
crazy.
professional, and then we have a number 12 in the under
What?
22 league.
Who's the unprofessional team then? Who's the semi-pro team?
This Handogs, it's called.
Okay, but everyone else is professional, right? Yeah.
Yeah, in the professional league, yes.
Mhm. So when you joined them, was Dalibor Savic there? He was a manager at the time, right?
No, not when I joined. I was
No.
joining 3 months before him, or 5 months,
Okay.
something.
And what was that like to move to Europa Point? Why was Gibraltar such a good idea for you as well?
Oh, for the first, I was like you say in Brommapojkarna, and we get promoted to Allsvenskan, but they didn't give me a contract to follow them, and it was a very like hard for me because I grow up and everything. I do my best, and then we come to Allsvenskan, and they didn't give me a contract. But that's football, how it works. But then, actually, the owner of the Europa Point today, he was my agent for maybe 12 years ago. So we have always like been in contact, and he's the same place from me, outside Stockholm in Ekerö. He had a house there, so we know each other. So he called me. I remember I took 1.5 months after the season. I was in Thailand, and he called me and said, "Hello, Martin. How are you? Are you ready? I have buy a club in Gibraltar. You want to join me and have a very big role for you, like academy director and captain and blah blah blah." So I say, "Yeah, you send me an offer and then we will see." So on that way, I was coming to Gibraltar for the first time.
In Gibraltar, I forgot what the capital's called now, but regardless, because there's so many teams in such a small space, I suppose when you walk down the street, you just maybe bump into teammates or players from other teams, right?
Yeah, it's very crazy there because, like you say, we have 11 teams and there's 2 or 3 pitches. Now it's only 2 because they
Yeah.
renovate to a stadium. So all the time you meet opponents, like, hello, how are you? Everyone is like a family. And then the day after you say bad words to each other on the pitch, but then the day after you see each other. So it's weird situations there.
I can't wait to go to Gibraltar because obviously
Right, you
you
need
got
to
the
go.
runway. Yeah, you got the
Yeah.
runway on the road, but it's a shame because imagine I came when Martin Falkeborn and Dalibor Savic were there. That'd have been
Yeah,
really cool. That'd have been
yeah,
amazing. But we'll have to wait and see. So
yeah,
you were there for 3 seasons.
yeah.
But let's talk about all those seasons. So the first season that you were there, I believe in 2022-23, you achieved 7 games, 1 assist. So what was that like then to play in the heat of Gibraltar in that time? What was it like for you?
So the life there in Gibraltar, and I live in Spain, like 5 minutes from the border.
Mhm.
It was Spain, it's sun. You go up 9 in the morning, and you go to the local cafe and take a croissant and a coffee, and then go to the gym and then go to the training. So the life there is amazing. But for me, I'm a young player, a young adult, and I want something in the ambition in the life. So the first 3 months when I come there, the owner told me like it's will not be the best here because it's only 5 games left. But the next season we're gonna put some more money and go for it. So the first 3 months we signed some good players, but young players from my contacts in Bromma Poikan are like 3 young players, and we stabilized. We play, I think it was 5 games, and we have 3 games 0-0, and the rest of the two we lost. But it was stability. So that was the first season. And then, yeah, if I continue, and then in the second season, when Dalibor Savic come, the owner say, yes, we go for it now. If we come top three, and we not go for top three, we go for top six first, and then we will go for top three the season number 3. So if you come top three in the Gibraltar, you go to the Europa League or Conference League or Champions League. They have 3 spots. So when Dali Savic come and we signed some good players, Norwegian, Thomas Drage, Finland keeper, Johannes Ström, and then we have me, and then we have a very good talent player, Hugo Jaslén, who was only 18 years old when he come, and then we have Johan Andersson, a center back who have played in Swedish top division. So we signed some really good players. And of course, with Ali Savic and the rest of the staff, we had a really good season, the number 2.
But with Dalibor Savic, he told me that Europa Point had never had more than 8 points in a season. And I believe, was it last season you achieved 35 points? It was bordering Champions League and Conference League playoffs.
Yeah, we was 6 points or something, 8 points from Bruno Magpies, who was on the number 3. So it was very close.
And obviously, without disrespect to the former managers and things like that, but what did Dalibor do in the squad? How essentially does one man take a team from going from 8 points to 35?
Of course, Dali have a part of it, and he was good to First of all, Dali is a good match coach. He can change something in the when we're playing. He can change some sub, and the sub coming in and score. It's some top notch there. Like he had some feeling.
Mhm.
And of course, it was difficult for him also to come to Gibraltar. It's not 100% professional here. You don't have the locker room. You don't maybe have the balls on the. It's unprofessional beside, but in the end, it's football. So you need to level up when you play football and when you're training and when you have the match. But I would say the best from Dali was his feeling of the games to change it.
Where do you see Gibraltar heading? Because obviously Gibraltar's a really small place, and now they're having, is it a stadium expansion? So now they're going to properly make it like a venue. Do you see that going in the right direction? I mean, Dali said to me, and I think I spoke to Hossein El Yahahi, who also played in Gibraltar, and he was telling me that they had schedules in terms of it's from 8 to 9. Europa Point will train, from 9 to 10. It will be this team. So you don't really have a lot of stability in trainings and things like that. So how would you improve that? Because there's no room to be able to build more pitches.
Yeah, that's a very good question. If I know that, maybe I will be the president in the league. But it's very difficult because, like you say, it's 11 teams professional. Then you have women's teams, and every of these 11 teams have minimum 5 youth teams. And we only have now only 2 pitches. So sometimes you can train in 10 in the night, sometimes you train 8 in the morning. So the stability is not there. But some of the best teams, like maybe St. Joseph, Lincoln, and Bruno, they have this stability because they rent a pitch in Spain and have this 4 to 6 every day. But that's also
Money.
money
Yeah.
questions.
Mhm. I remember watching my first Europa Point game. You must have played in that game, but I just couldn't believe it because I'm watching the game and I see a plane taking off and landing, and then I see the team that are playing after you coming around the stadium. It was really
Yeah.
really funny to watch, but it was a good game, and I think that game was a draw. If I believe you were playing against the team above you.
Okay.
So in terms of your future outlook, then in terms of Gibraltar football and things like that, do you see Gibraltar heading in the right direction?
It's both way. Like we say, this problem with this. So it's going on the good way because more investors is coming, and the arena, this new stadium, it's very huge step for all Gibraltar. But the thing is also in Gibraltar, maybe Dali know. say that like you need to have four players from Gibraltar all the time on the pitch. So it doesn't matter if someone get injured or something, you need to have an extra one. And the problem in this, especially for us this year, we only had around 6 to 7 Gibraltar players, and then two of them get injured, and then you only have four players, and they need to start, and then you don't have any sub. So some 2 games this season, we have one player who need to stand on the pitch all the time, injured. So we play with 10 players when the game starts. So that's a big problem here in the All Gibraltar, and I think they need to reduce these home ground players to maybe maximum 2 players, so you get the quality up also, and around it.
I spoke to Dalibor obviously before, because hopefully he's going to come and do a podcast in London, which would be quite cool. But he described you as a leader on and off the pitch. He praised your hard work, team mentality, and the ability to create a positive team atmosphere. What's that like to hear something from your former manager?
I know Dali from Bromma Pojkarna when he was under 21 coach, under
Yeah,
19 there, and also with the seniors. We always have good cooperation, and he's from Balkan. This Yugoslavia,
yeah, yeah.
Serbia, and how to say this attitude. And for me, I have this passion when I play. I have this passion when I train. I always want to win and have ambition in the life. So I think we are good cooperation because he also a winner and I'm a winner, and we want to win together. And of course, the people around me say that I'm a little bit crazy sometimes, in the trainings, in the dressing rooms, you speak a little bit, funny histories and stuff like that. And the young players maybe, oh, what they say and stuff like that. But I always want to include everyone.
Of course.
So I think I have a positive mindset of the. Doesn't matter if you come into the training and you have a bad day at the school. When you come to the trains, you should always be happy and enjoy it.
So obviously, Dalibor's now left Europa Point last season, right? So for him leaving, firstly, how did he announce it? And then secondly, you took over as the manager. So how did that all happen?
Why he left, it's up to him to answer
Yeah.
because I have a big role in the club, but the economic and stuff around it, I'm not responsibility. It's
I'm,
always the owner.
I mean, is it how did he tell you that he was leaving as a team?
Aha, how he tell us.
Yes, yeah, yeah.
He just he was there and tell us that I gonna leave, and it was because we always have this top six spot. And
Okay.
he only had the contract to 1st of April, and then we have 2 more games. But for of course, it's not ideal to leave when we have 2 3 games left. But I don't know the details around it, if I'm honest.
Mhm. And then you took over as the coach. So what happened? You took over the role as head coach.
And first of all, for this season, we have a Spanish coach
Hmm.
who was the head coach, but he's a good coach and a good academy background in Barcelona and stuff like that. But then the culture maybe between Spain and England and especially Sweden, it was difficult for him also because if I'm honest, this year we didn't have the squad to compete for top six or even top eight. So it was in the first 5 6 games we lost, and then the owner asked me like, Martin, we need to do a change. Are you ready with your background as a trainer in Bromma Pojkarna and the academy? Are you ready to maybe go in and take the head coach? So I would say yes, it's a good experience for me also, and try to be a head coach. But I was telling him Magnus, the owner, not much will change. Of course, I can get in the discipline, the attitude that we are going to be a hard-working team, but the players we have, it's not competing with the top teams. So
So you now are in, is it Finland?
now in IFK Mariehamn in cold Finland.
Yes, I
In
was going to say it's probably a bit colder in Finland than it is in the UK right now, right?
yeah, I think so.
So, what's your role there? I believe you're somewhat in the academy part, right? Have you retired as a professional footballer?
I will never say I'm retired yet
Okay.
because I was playing a game for 3 weeks ago and I scored 2 games against Lions, and then the season here in Gibraltar was finished in the middle of March. So the owner tell me like, yeah, if you find something else, you can go if you want. So, and for me also, like I say, like to come, we lost every game and the environment was not good, and I see that the money situation maybe is not good in the club and the organization is weaker and weaker. So I tell him like, Magnus, even you do something or I will maybe leave. So he said, yeah, we will not do anything, so you can leave. And then I get here in IFK Mariehamn. They was looking for a trainer for the academy and the responsibility over the academy. So it was a good challenge for me. But they have a prem team in the highest league, so I was asking the coach if I can maybe get a trial and compete. Maybe I will do it later.
You, so you think that'll be the next move? So from my perspective, if I was a professional footballer, you'd never want to retire. You'd want to make the most of these last few years. Obviously, you're 32. So do you see yourself staying at the academy for maybe a year and then going back into professional football? Because I believe that maybe when you look back on your career, had you retired pretty early, maybe
Yeah.
you might regret it somewhere down the line.
Yeah, I will always have everything open, maybe we never know in football, Like I
Mm.
say, for 1 week ago I sit in Gibraltar and play a game, and now I'm sitting in -2 here in Finland and take care of the youth. So you never know in football. So I will always have the doors open for everything.
Okay. So what we always do to round it up is build you a FIFA card. So it's just this thing that we do to see how you compare to everyone else. So you know what FIFA is, right? Of course you do.
Yeah, of course
Okay.
I play.
So that you play it.
Not now,
Okay.
before,
Okay.
before.
You're too busy with other stuff. You're too busy. So there's 6 things. So what would your pace be?
Is it 0 to 100?
Yeah.
Or yeah, because I had a FIFA card 2015, and then I have pace 73, so I was
Really?
pretty fast. Yeah,
You were in FIFA?
yeah, FIFA 15 if you Google it. So I would say
Okay.
73.
Okay. So it stayed the same across the years. Good to know.
Yeah.
And what would your shooting be?
Shooting. Oh,
Yes.
that not good. 15.
But you you've scored goals recently. How could it be so
Oh,
low?
okay. You're okay in the end of the cap. But now I take, what I have FIFA 15. So, okay, for the moment, okay, 52, we say.
Good, good,
Oh,
good. What would your passing be?
passing is pretty good.
Of course.
63.
Okay. 3 more left. Dribbling.
Nah, dribbling is not my best, so it would be the last. But I have the technique, basic technique, so I would say 45, under the
45.
average.
Okay, good to know. And what's this one? Defending.
Oh, defending is good. I would
Yeah.
say 70.
Okay. And you said that you're physical before, so what would your physicality be?
95. I run 10
Oh,
kilometers every day now.
really?
Yeah, and not every day, but minimum 5 times per week.
What? That's crazy. Martin, absolute
Yeah,
pleasure. Thank you so much
yeah,
for coming on. It's been an absolute pleasure, and hopefully you've enjoyed it as much as I have. It's been very,
yeah.
very
Thank
good.
you very much.
No worries. Thank you for joining me. You know what? It's actually been, I really wanted to get you on for so long, and it's so good
Yeah.
to finally get in contact. Yeah.
Ah,
Because I spoke to Dalibor Savic. I'm quite close with him.
yeah.
And you know the game Football Manager? I was playing Football Manager and you kept coming up, and obviously I followed you on social media, and I was like, I really want to interview you. So it's really
Okay.
good. It's
Yeah,
really
it's
good. It's
perfect.
really good.
Perfect.